Let me tell you what $1,400 looks like in America first. It is a studio apartment where rent takes $1,200 and leaves $200 for everything else. Food, medication, electricity. It is survival dressed up as retirement. I lived that for 2 years in Indiana after 38 years on a food processing line. Honest work. It gave me 2 kids through college and a social security check. What it did not give me was enough. Not in America. Not anymore. Linda died 4 years before I retired. After that, the house was just square footage and a refrigerator running in a kitchen where nobody was cooking. I stayed 2 years waiting for a reason to leave. No reason came, just the weight of not moving. Then my son sent me an article about Americans living abroad on fixed incomes. He sent it hoping I would feel reassured and stay put. I booked a one-way ticket to the Philippines instead.
The reverse happened. I read it and felt the first thing I had felt in 2 years that wasn't grief or arithmetic anxiety. I felt interested. I researched for 4 months. Methodically, because I am methodical. Spreadsheets, forums, Facebook groups, healthcare comparisons, visa requirements, exchange rate histories. And one country kept surfacing for men in my exact situation. Older, fixed income, alone, not looking for nightlife or beaches, looking for a life that had warmth and texture and some daily reason to get up. The Philippines. A city called Dumaguete on the island of Negros. I booked a one-way ticket because a return ticket is a permission slip to give up, and I had done enough giving up quietly. The heat arriving in Dumaguete is not a weather condition. It is a physical event. It doesn't happen to your skin. It happens to your entire body simultaneously, and your body has opinions about it. I was 68 years old, standing outside a small airport, with 2 bags and the name of a guest house owner I had only spoken to through a messaging app, and the growing awareness that the distance between a good plan and a good outcome is longer than it looks on paper. A man named Dodong was waiting with my name on a cardboard sign, misspelled close enough. He drove me through a city that was loud and warm and in motion, in a way Indiana had never been in motion, and I watched it through the tricycle's open side with the expression of a man actively reconsidering a decision he has already committed to. The woman who owned the guest house was named Ate Nena. She was perhaps 65. She looked at me the way you look at something you've been told about and are now assessing against the description. Then she said, "You look tired. Not from the travel, the other kind." She showed me where the water heater switch was, told me the Wi-Fi password, and said breakfast was included and would be on the table at 7, and if I wanted something different from what she made, I was welcome to want it somewhere else. The first morning I sat down to garlic fried rice, a fried egg, and coffee already made and waiting. I sat there feeling something I couldn't immediately name. Then I named it. Expected. Someone had made food in anticipation of my presence. Had factored me into their morning. After 4 years of being a man whose presence or absence was a matter of complete indifference to every morning in America, the garlic rice hit me somewhere that had nothing to do with hunger. I moved into a proper apartment after the first month. 2 rooms, a small covered porch, a papaya tree in the shared courtyard that belonged to everyone in the unarticulated way that common things belong to people who live in close quarters. 10,000 pesos a month. $178. My neighbor was a woman named Aling Beth, 71, retired government worker, with a vegetable garden in 2 large plastic containers on her porch, that she tended with the seriousness appropriate to a much larger agricultural operation. She spoke English precisely and had opinions about everything, including the correct way to cook the vegetables she grew and the specific reasons why my attempts fell into the incorrect category. She also, in the 3rd week, without announcement, began leaving vegetables on my porch. A bundle of kangkong, a handful of small tomatoes, twice a week, always before I was up. Never a note, because the vegetables were self-explanatory. I tried to pay her once. She looked at the money and then at me, with an expression that required no translation, and I put the money away and have not tried again. A woman named Thao ran a small carinderia a few streets from my building, Turo style. Point at what you want, she fills the plate. A full meal, rice and 2 dishes and a small soup, costs 50 to 60 pesos. A little over $1. She figured out within the first week that I liked it spicy. She began putting a small dish of Siling Labuyo chilies at my place before I sat down. Never mentioned it, just did it. The same way she did it every day after. I have thought about that dish more than I can reasonably explain. 40 years of eating alone. Not one person had ever learned how I liked my food and kept it ready without being asked. A woman in a Turo in the Philippines figured it out in a week and acted on it like it was obvious. Because to her it was obvious. That is the thing I needed time to understand. Now the numbers. Plainly, because you deserve plain. The apartment is 10,000 pesos, $178. Electricity runs $12 to $15 in normal months. I run the air conditioning at night, and I do not negotiate with myself about this anymore. At 68 with blood pressure medication, nighttime temperature is not a luxury. It is a medical position. Water is $3. Internet is $30 for fiber that outperforms what I paid 3 times as much for in Indiana. Food. Breakfast I make myself. Eggs and rice and whatever fruit Alingbeth left on the porch. Lunch at the Turo most days. 50 to 60 pesos, $1. Dinner I vary between cooking and a small place on the boulevard where grilled chicken costs 80 pesos and tastes like chicken, finally being honest about its potential. A woman named Immer comes twice a week to clean and do laundry. She is 45, has 2 kids in school, and charges 600 pesos per visit. I pay 700. The 600 is the local rate, and the local rate when you are operating on American dollars and have any decency is a floor, not a ceiling. Medications. Blood pressure medication that cost $48 a month in Indiana, with insurance costs $6 here. Same medication. Same dosage. My doctor here, a quiet, thorough man named Dr. Flores, who trained in Manila and who has seen enough American retirees to know what questions we have before we ask them, confirmed it is reliable. Everything added up honestly. Rent, food, utilities, Emer, medications, internet, tricycle fares, the one cold beer I have on Friday evenings on the seawall, watching the light change over the water. A comfortable month, nothing left out, runs 30 to 34,000 pesos, $535 to $600. My Social Security check is $1,400. I have money left over. I want to say that one more time, because I spent 2 years in Indiana saying the opposite every month, without exception. I have money left over. But the money is the wrong center of this story, even though it is the title. The money is the door. What matters is what I found on the other side of it. 4 months in, I had a bad episode with my heart. Not a crisis, Dr. Flores was clear about that, but a warning. I was worn through for 2 days, operating at half. I did not tell anyone in the building because I am 68 and from Indiana, and the combination produces a stubbornness about self-sufficiency that is partly admirable and mostly self-punishing. Alingbeth noticed I hadn't been to the market 2 mornings in a row. That was the whole mechanism, the absence of a man from a morning market. She noticed because she had, without telling me, been tracking the small rhythms of my days. Not intrusively, not formally, just as a background awareness that costs nothing and can mean everything. She knocked. She looked at me. She went back to her apartment and returned 20 minutes later with a pot of tinolang manok, ginger chicken soup with green papaya, clear broth, clean and deep, and the smell of it when she put it on the counter hit me somewhere I was not prepared to be hit. Linda made chicken soup when I was sick. Different recipe, same principle. Someone who cares about you decides that the right response to your suffering is a pot of something warm, and the decision to bring it, rather than wait to be asked. Beth sat at my small kitchen table while I ate, and watched the eating the way you watch it, when eating is the treatment, and you are monitoring the treatment's progress. She did not hover. She did not fill the silence with reassurance. She just stayed, with her own cup of coffee, and the particular quality of a person who has nowhere more important to be, and has decided you are where she is supposed to be. I did not cry in front of her, but it was close. It was close because of all the nights in Indiana when I was sick and the television was on for noise, and the idea that someone who had known me 4 months would track my morning absence and bring soup would have seemed like something from a different category of life entirely. Not my category. It was my category now. My daughter Renee came in February. She flew from Cincinnati with the look of a woman on an inspection, prepared to find the thing I'd glossed over, the risk I was minimizing, the truth behind the too good to be true. Instead, the first morning, she watched Beth leave vegetables on the porch without ceremony or explanation. She watched it and didn't say anything. I saw her watching. At the Turo Turo, Thao put the chili dish at my place before I sat and looked at Renee with a question in her eyes, and Renee, game in the way her mother was always game, nodded yes. Thao put the chilies in front of her too. Renee handled them better than I had in my first week, which I told her, and which she accepted as the compliment it was. On her last evening, she sat with me on the porch, the building doing its evening things around us, the smell of somebody's dinner, the papaya tree in the last of the light. She was quiet for a while, the way she gets quiet when she is revising something she came in believing. Then she said, "Dad, I came here to find what was wrong." I waited. She said, "Someone left vegetables on your porch this morning because they were thinking about you at 7 a.m. I said yes. She said, "That didn't happen in Indiana." I said no, it didn't happen in Indiana. She took my hand on that porch the way she did when she was small, and we would sit outside, and she would ask me questions about how things worked and why. She said, "Mom used to say the whole point was having someone who noticed the small things on the ordinary days. You found that, Dad. You actually found that." I didn't have anything to add to that. Linda would have said it better, but she said it through Renee, which is how people we've lost continue to speak, through the people they shaped. The hard parts. I owe you these. Healthcare is the real consideration, and I will not soften it. Dr. Flores is good and thorough, and the costs are genuinely low, and the routine care of a 68-year-old body has been attentive. But for anything acute, anything serious, the answer is a flight to Cebu City, or Manila, where the hospitals have what serious situations require. I keep money set aside. I have a plan in writing. Renee has a copy. Treat this not as a fear but as a preparation. There is a difference. The visa process requires attention and patience that some people underestimate. I made errors. I corrected them. Go in knowing it is a process and not a transaction. There are days the heat is not a backdrop, but a verdict. Days where the combination of temperature and age and the body's accumulated grievances makes the compound porch the outer limit of what is achievable. These days are real and frequent enough to be a feature of the life and not an exception to it. And the loneliness of being a foreigner does not fully dissolve. I am included here more genuinely than I was included in Indiana. That is entirely true. I am also always, at some level, the outsider who has been warmly brought in. There are songs and references and histories in the bones of this place that I will never have access to, and that close around me sometimes at the edges of things and remind me of what I am. I had that gap in Indiana, in my own language, in my own country. There it made no sense, and the senselessness felt like a verdict on me. Here it makes complete geographic sense, and from within it, people have given me more warmth than I found in 6 years of being exactly where I was supposed to be. I will take the logical version every time. Let me tell you what the days look like now. 5:30. My body has made decisions about sleeping that it no longer submits for approval. Coffee on the porch, the building coming awake, small sounds, a pot somewhere, a gate. A child's question arriving before full consciousness has addressed the question of the day. Tuesdays and Fridays, the kangkong appears on the corner of the porch table. Morning market when the hip is cooperating, which is most mornings with negotiation. The fish vendor named Romy who tells me what he'd recommend before I ask. The banana lady who started saving me the small sweet Lackaton ones without explaining why. Ows at lunch, the chili dish already waiting. Afternoons slow, I read. I sleep when the body asks for it, which at 68, it asks for without apology, and I have stopped arguing. Emer on Tuesdays and Fridays, with updates on her children that have developed over months into a serial I follow with genuine investment. The boulevard in the evenings, when the body cooperates. The seawall where the whole city walks as the sun goes. The light over the water, doing something in the last 20 minutes before dark that I have tried to describe to Renee on our Sunday calls and cannot. Friday evening. One cold San Miguel on a plastic chair outside. The street close enough to be part of. The $1,400 converted into something I could not have purchased in Indiana at any price. A life. An actual present tense, fully inhabited life. I paid into Social Security for 38 years. Spent 2 years discovering that what I'd paid into was not enough for the country that collected it. Got on a plane and moved the number to a different equation, and the equation solved in a way the original couldn't. That is the arithmetic. The arithmetic is real, and I've given it to you straight. But the arithmetic is the door. What's on the other side of the door is Allingbeth's soup arriving before I asked for it. Thau's chili dish waiting before I sit down. Renee on a porch in the warm dark saying the thing I will carry. $1,400 a month. On the other side of the world, it bought me back the one thing that 2 years of careful survival in Indiana couldn't. The sense that the morning is worth getting up for. It is. I'll see you at the market.